This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. It is Thursday, September 24th, 2020. It's 6:30 p.m. We will call our Rhome City Council meeting to order. We will establish that we have a quorum of council members present first. Council Member McCabe?
Present.
Thank you. Council Member Crenshaw?
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Priest? I think we've got a little technical difficulty with her. We'll come back to her. Councilmember Mikowski?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Eason?
Here.
Thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Priest, are you back on the line? Okay, I'm not hearing her right now. We have 4 that have answered present, so we have a quorum of council members to hold our meeting. We will first start off with public presentations and input. The council is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the council at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. We will hear comments during this designated time. I'll turn to the city secretary for anyone that's turned in the appropriate forms for the public presentation portion. This is not the public hearing. We have 2 public hearings later in the agenda. This is for just regular public input. So, City Secretary, if you will let us know what you have.
Yes, ma'am. I've got quite a few. The first one is Deborah B. Craft. Miss B. Craft, are you on the call? Miss B. Craft?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. There is an old saying of dance with the one that brung you. I agree we do need new growth, new businesses, but not at the neglect of the citizens who have been paying this bill for years and some of them for decades. This council has been focused on getting new development and making everything look new and expensive for the last 4 years that it seems like you've gotten tunnel vision. Not only has this council not danced with those that brung you, but you failed to even tell the citizens of Rome that there was a dance going on. You simply must stop spending all the tax dollars getting ready for every project that you think needs to happen for the next decade and take care of what we already have. All the paperwork and the planning for every project before getting any of them completed or started is ludicrous, because by the time you get to some of them on your list, the paperwork that has cost us so much will be outdated or unusable because of things that have happened that's not in your control. Just do 1 or 2 projects at a time, please. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Patricia Mitchell. Miss Mitchell, are you on the call?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just a shout out to Chief Sam Love and his police department. Back to blue.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you very much.
Next is Shirley Mize. Miss Mize?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, please begin when you're ready.
Okay, I wanted to discuss our the budget that they're going to have the amendments on as far as the 2019 and the 2020. I've seen that we've overspent in our police department, public works, administration, and building development. And I would like to understand that we are not overspending and that we have a limitation on this. And public works salary went up $6,000 over what they budgeted. Overtime was $6,000 over. Legal fees for administration was $3,000 over.
Our credit card fees are not being figured out what we're going to need or use. I have a $4,576 one. I also have an $11,250, and it may be because she didn't put it in on the budget for that year because we were talking about depleting that, but it did show that it had an approval on it based upon her comparisons. And our insurance and policy liabilities seem to be overspending, and inspection fees was $20,000 over, and engineering services was $30,000 over. So I think that we need to adjust or set some rules here of who's able to spend over the budget and get some sign off so somebody can be accountable for that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Joanne Wilson. Miss Wilson, go ahead when you're ready.
Let me get off mute and it will work better.
Okay, we can hear you.
First thing, I would like to address the upcoming election for city government. I realize that Facebook or similar media is a good way of communicating. However, guys, let's stay honorable. Please only post the truth and do not attack others. This is true right now of a sitting council member, for God's sake. Rome needs to come together as one with not so much hate. Please join me in this endeavor. Second subject, there will be a bond election November 3rd. The city of Rome has posted a table that shows how much our taxes will increase for this $4.7 million bond. Is this bond what the tax-paying citizens want to be saddled with? Could a cheaper alternative be proposed, or are we just for new and shiny? Maybe in this uncertain time, we were too quick to propose the bond. One of the council members seemed to understand the economic challenges as he expressed his thought, but then turned around and voted for the bond. Are there other alternatives? And secondly, this, I don't have a good basis for it, but it appears that a lawsuit is pending from the family that let the school use this property for a school many, many years ago in the 1900s. The relatives are saying there was an understanding that should it no longer be used as a school, the property was to be returned to its original owners. Are we certain that the property is ours, or is there a lawsuit pending? Don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Lisa Ann Wilson, and her comments will be read by Joanne Wilson.
I love my mute button. I keep forgetting to punch it. The old 1929 elementary high school, which sits in Old Town Rome, holds many memories for my family. My mother, my sister, and myself attended there, as did numerous family members, past and present. I have a lot of fond memories of days spent there. I made a lot of wonderful friends, many memories that I will treasure forever and always. I take great pride in this historical building that sits in Old Town Rome. However, during these uncertain times, the future is very uncertain for many. I do not feel we need to saddle our citizens with an exorbitant bond package and subsequent tax increases that will continue for many years. Can we look for alternative funding? The citizens I have talked to question such a high price tag for the bond. Again, I ask that you listen to the tax-paying citizens and not just the ones that want shiny and bright, and many new which do not even live or pay taxes here. In closing, I realize that we are in trying economical times, so let's be conservative. I welcome change and realize that growth is imminent. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Ashley Majors. Ms. Majors, go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, ma'am. Is Elaine Priest with us tonight?
Yes, ma'am, she is.
Okay. I would like to say first, thank you to Elaine Priest. Her and her husband were planting flowers at our city hall on Sunday. I would like to say thank you for the beautification of our city hall that she does. So thank you, Elaine, for your time that you do for us. And also, next, I want to just briefly say that for the budget, that the citizens cannot afford it. And then I'm also going to speak for on Facebook. It is embarrassing to see what is going on from our leadership. It needs to be addressed as a whole, from the top all the way to the bottom. It should, I understand it is during the election, but there are some of us incumbents that haven't even put our names out there because we are fearful to what is going on right now, just to one of the incumbents. So, so as of right now, I think that the council in whole needs to take a look at themselves and address the situation and think of what is going on, so we're not the laughing stock of Wise County. We need to have integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor, that's all for citizen presentations.
Thank you. And just for the record, Mayor Pro Tem Priest, could you indicate that you are present? Can you indicate that you're present for the meeting? Do you mind unmuting for just a second, letting us know you're here?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just barely.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm having all kinds of difficulties. I can see you on my computer, on Terry's computer.
I think we're losing the volume.
Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you now. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I can't hear you now. I think maybe you'll have to work with Terry on the audio. We're not able to hear you. All right. While she's working on that, we'll continue on in our meeting. We have announcements from mayor and council members. Just briefly, the only thing I have is that we had some questions about political signs, and according to city ordinance, political signs should be erected no sooner than the 30th day before the election and are not allowed in city or state right-of-ways, only on private property. And election day is November 3rd, 2020, so 30 days before that date. Other than that, that's all I had. Do we have any announcements from the council? Okay, hearing nothing, we'll go on to our presentation of our Shine Award. I'll turn it over to the city administrator at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to have Officer Jeffrey Pradia on the call today. He has been nominated for the Shine Award this quarter, and I just want to read what was written about him. He has always gone above and beyond in his service to the Rhome community. He always makes the extra effort to contact citizens and young people to let them know he is their friend and to see if they need any help. We have received numerous calls from citizens thanking him for taking the time to stop and talk with children. He has been a mentor to kids at the elementary and middle schools, and we have occasionally citizens stop him and ask him to be a part of their parties at home. Of course, you can't do that, but he will get out and meet everyone there. He recently was credited with saving a woman's life in Chisholm Springs edition when he arrived at the scene of her choking and he performed CPR to get her breathing again. Officer Prydia, thank you for going above and beyond, building relationships and trust with our Rhome residents. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to add something, Manager, City Administrator.
Sure.
Okay. He recently has shown that he's kind to animals. He adopted one of our stray kittens.
Aw.
Awesome. Well, we are so proud of you, Officer Prydia, and thank you for being on the line tonight. You know, we are so glad you're with the city and so glad the talents and the caring that you showed our community. We all appreciate that.
Thank you.
He was having microphone trouble a while ago. I don't know, Jeffrey, if you can hear us, just wave or nod your head up and down, yes.
I'm able to hear now. I had to get it dialed in through the phone.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you being here tonight, and we're very proud to have you as a part of our city.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege to be able to serve here.
Awesome. Well, it looks like maybe you're in your patrol car, so please be safe as you're out and about.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right. All right, thank you for that Shine Award presentation. We'll go on to regular agenda old business now with an update, discussion, and any necessary action regarding latest developments for COVID-19 and mitigation efforts and actions within the city. So just a quick update. On September 17th, the governor issued executive order number GA-30 relating to continued response to the COVID-19 disaster as Texas reopens. So if you'd like the details of that, that's a 5-6 page document with the latest, greatest from the governor on some reopening steps. Our CARES funding, our CRF expenses that are waiting on reimbursement total $11,324.43 as of September 18th, 2020. Municipal court is continuing to be held virtually as ordered by the judge with guidance from appropriate governing bodies. And then the governor's extension of September 7th as it relates to holding virtual meetings is in place for 30 days. The city will post updates on future meetings as information becomes available. And then finally, as a result of COVID, the fire department will be hosting a drive-through trunk or treat at the fire station along with Rhome Police Department in lieu of holding the annual trunk or treat event in Family Park. The departments are working hard to ensure the health and safety of all with appropriate social distancing measures in place. More to come as these plans get finalized. We'll publish that out in the appropriate places. So just wanted to update everyone on those things related to COVID. That's all I had on that one. So we will move on to agenda item C, update, discussion, and any necessary action regarding progress made on the new website project. And I will turn it over to the city administrator who's been working diligently with staff to get the new website up and going. So if you'll give us an update, please.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mayor. Council members and Mayor, as you know, in the comprehensive development plan, communications was a big emphasis for you all. And so I'm excited to be able to say that staff has been working with our vendor, and we expect to be able to roll out that new website October 5th. So that's exciting, and we'll keep you posted on that. And of course, there's a lot to come on that. We've got a lot of new content. Of course, they're migrating the existing content. We'll have new content, and the goal is to be able to have that website really be a place to go where people can gain information for the questions that they have about what's going on at the city.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This is a project that's been many years in the making and needing to be done. So we're definitely glad to see that on board. So thank you for that update. Agenda item D, update discussion and any necessary action regarding municipal complex design project.
Could we go back one? I just want to, Cynthia, would you please repeat the date you're expected to have that new website?
October 5th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so agenda item D, the municipal complex design project. Just wanted to kind of give you an update on where we're at on just the design. So the City Hall complex project was broken into two phases. Phase one being the interior renovation to City Hall, Community Center, and exterior facade of the fire department. Let's see, the 90% review set for phase one will be issued on Monday, October 28th for city review. And then we're working on some dates for other things in regard to the design. We did have an opportunity to have staff give a little more input to our group quorum with Kim Dowdy on some of the interior finishes to finalize the designs and the cost, the projected cost for that to bring to you at a future meeting. So just wanted to let you know that design project is still rolling on. We'll keep you posted at the next meeting. All right, we'll move on to agenda item E, update discussion and any necessary action regarding the master thoroughfare plan project. I'll turn it over to City Administrator for an update on that project.
Mayor and Council, the consultant, Kimberly Horn, has met with the Transportation Committee that you all appointed, and they are developing a draft map incorporating the comments that the committee members made on that. They will present that draft map back to the second committee meeting next Tuesday night on the 29th. And from there, they will develop a final report and expect to be able to present that to you all October, maybe November, so October 22nd, or maybe the first meeting in November.
All right. Thank you for the update on that project. Agenda item F, our next project is Parks Master Plan. And I'll turn to the City Administrator for an update on that as well.
Okay, well, it's going very well. Just the bottom line, they are on target and on schedule to have the final report for that entire endeavor, and that included a lot of public engagement, the focus groups. Of course, they had to think on their feet with COVID, and the committee has done a lot of work on that. So we should have that by September 30th, and they will plan on presenting that to the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee on October 15th. And then they will present it to you, Mayor and Council, on the 22nd.
Perfect. All right. If I could get everybody to mute the call, we're getting a lot of feedback. I want to make sure we can hear everybody as they're speaking in their turn. Okay, we are going to go on to our public hearing portion of the meeting. So we will open the public hearing at 6:54 p.m. And just a reminder of the public hearing rules, they'll be the same as public speaking, 3 minutes for each person. We have 2 items for public hearings, so you can speak 3 minutes on each one. And we will go in order that the city secretary received the request. And once we've gone through that, I'll open the floor to make sure that we haven't missed anybody that's present on the call to give their input for these 2 items. All right, so our first public hearing item agenda Item G is the Rhome City Council to conduct a public hearing to consider a rezoning request by property owner representative Sean Sahihi of legal property located on Holly Parkway, Rome, Texas, legally described as 3.467 subdivision BC Rome Edition. This request is to change the current zoning of retail to the proposed zoning of planned development. So I will turn it to the city secretary to start with our list of speakers for this topic.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to go through the ones that we received by mail, email, or drop off at City Hall, and then I will call on the speakers that have requested to speak. First, we received from M&H Food Mart. They were in favor of the proposed request. I think this will bring different options for housing in the area rather than just single family housing. It will definitely bring variety of housing in the area. Second one received was Shine West Shine LLC, and they were in favor of the proposed request. We did have from the P&Z meeting that Deborah Beecraft was opposed, and she will be speaking in just a few minutes. And the same with Patricia Mitchell. She also turned in a form that she was opposed, and she'll also be speaking in just a moment. Those were all of the forms that we received at the City Hall. So next I'll go through the speakers. First one is Deborah Beecraft. Ms. Beecraft, go when you start ready.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, mute button's get me too. Actually, I am not opposed if there are a few changes. I don't mind townhomes by the apartments we already have. I think that's a good place for them. But by the map, it's going to be more townhomes than retail. I think it should be more retail than townhomes, especially on Holly Parkway. With other businesses already in that area, it seems like a natural fit for more business. If you think about it, with the townhomes, you get property tax dollars. With retail, you get property tax dollars and sales tax. So why wouldn't you want more retail than townhomes? There's not enough retail in the map. Could it be approved that with more retail required? On the map as it shows now, going from Dollar General down Holly Parkway towards the bank, you have retail right up by 114 or by Main Street, and then everything else is townhomes. And that is not going to be good when you have to go drive from the Dollar General or that store, the new store, to go to the bank. You're going to be driving through the townhome parking lot, and that's just an accident waiting to happen, traffic problem, especially if they have small children. So I think it would be bad for the citizens and the new townhome owners. And so I would like to see it with retail down, at least just down Holly, so that you're not driving through a townhome parking lot with people and kids and that kind of thing. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Patricia Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, start when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You know, I see you want to change it. The guy wants to change it from retail to planned development district. And some of us had not heard of a planned development district until this came up and started looking for the ordinance. Bywell is also a planned development district and has been since 1996. And city's ordinance stipulates underground utilities, but there seemed to have been no reaction when they came and told you the guy had put up the telephone poles. Also Love's Travel Stop is also a planned development district and has been since 2010. So since you're changing it from retail to planned development district, I think we need to be a little clearer on just what that ordinance is and who's responsible for enforcing those ordinances. If the mayor and council aren't responsible, whose responsibility is it? I'm not opposed to the retail. I would favor that more so than I do, cramming density of living arrangements into a small area like you did with like they were trying to do with Morris. Anyway, I am opposed to it as it sits at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Shirley Mize. Miss Mize, start when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm in favor of the Holly Parkway rezoning request with restrictions. The height and the bulk of the buildings hereafter erected, reconstructed, altered, or enlarged, because that might come later on. To regulate and determine the area and limit the density of population, to protect and preserve places and areas of historical and cultural importance and significance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Joanne Wilson. Miss Wilson, when you're ready.
Shannon, can you now hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Relative to the Holly Parkway development, I see retail, but possibly not. I'm for it, but I don't see enough retail. And I'd ask that the council ensure that the site plan has green space, adequate ingress and egress to accommodate fire trucks, school buses, garbage trucks, and green space and outdoor space for residents. Also, make sure that it accommodates proper enclosed space for garbage containers, etc. I am also concerned about parking and water and sewer accommodations. I ask that the council do not approve this before changes are guaranteed in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Last on this agenda item is Ashley Majors. Miss Majors, when you're ready.
Yes, ma'am. Okay,
you.
I am for it. I'm in favor with restrictions. I'm excited to have commercial development coming to our town of Rome. I can envision a small restaurant and boutiques and even a coffee shop there on the end that Mr. I'm not even going to say it, presented to PNC. I would prefer more retail, but parking is an issue. With the townhomes, I would ask for, the facades and landscaping, and also to match the future development of our main streets and what we have for our PID development. But that's all I have to say for is just the parking. It's just to look into the parking and for the retail on Holly Parkway. But just, I'm in favor with restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor, that's all that is signed up.
All right, thank you. I'll open the floor to anybody who's not signed up, who is not on the council. Is there anyone else that's on the line that would like 3 minutes to state your position on this particular matter? Okay, not hearing any of that. Anyone on that one? We will go on to our next public hearing item.
Okay,
Sorry, if you want to go ahead and read the agenda item, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Rhome City Council to conduct a public hearing to consider amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance section 33A OTR Old Town Rome by renaming section 33A Downtown District and amending the boundaries of the proposed downtown district. So go ahead with our public hearing speakers for the evening.
Ma'am, I will do the same thing. I'll read through the ones that we received, and then I will call on the ones that requested to speak. First received Jackson, Robert, and Jennifer Living Trust. They are in favor of the proposed request. Pamela Kemp, she is opposed. Michael and Sharon Casterline, they are opposed. Comments, we feel that the name should remain Old Town Rome because we aren't part of Fort Worth. This Old Town Rome deserves to remain because of the history. I can't that anyone would want to change the name to Downtown District. It gives no ID to the city. Shame. Next, Rhome Community Library, they are opposed. Next, Jennifer Christine Brewer Smith. She is opposed. Her comment was, no point in renaming this. It's a waste of time and money for a town the size of Rome. It's Rome, not Dallas. Next one is Brenda Pellet. She is in favor. Her comment, look forward to the completion of the old school project now in process. Next was Shane West Shane LLC. They were in favor of the request. Next is Lewis Godfrey and Raymond Burns Godfrey. They are opposed. Their comments were, we are not in support of amending the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Section 33A, Old Town Rome. We prefer that Old Town Rome be left alone and not be renamed Downtown District. We do not believe that the residents that live in Crown Point or Ellis Homestead would like to be renamed, and neither do the residents who live in Old Town Rome. Old Town Rome has such an appeal and connection with the history of the city and its past, and the letter we received from the city on the possible renaming was very vague at best. The map online does not even have a legend to see what represents what in the rezoning. After a research on this topic, we find that everything is not adding up. What is really going on here? What else is going to happen along with the name change? Are we going to be under new housing restrictions, rezoning, or guidelines on how we should take care of our property and what we can and cannot do with it? If so, the letter that all residents who live in the proposed area for renaming was not only vague, misleading, but very deceptive on the mayor and the city council's part. No other important information was provided to us. What other hidden changes would take place without our knowledge and the information that was provided in the letter? Also, why were some of the streets in Old Town Rome omitted from the map that was provided with the letter? There are several residential homes on the map as well as businesses that are in Old Town Rome that is not included in the renaming. Someone didn't do their research properly, or maybe it was intentional to leave them out for some reason. Only the council knows, and they are not sharing with us. We do not want Old Town Rome renamed or someone telling us how to live or use our property, because this is what I believe is happening here. An end run around the truth is to why the council, and none of them live in Old Town Rome, want to rename Old Town Rome. If the members to the council want a downtown district, then they should move to Southlake and leave us in Old Town Rome alone. We'd like to present name of Old Town Rome and the past historical history and value the name represents. So we ask you respectfully not rename Old Town Rome. Thank you for your time. Next one was RBP Catalyst LLC. They are opposed. Deborah B. Kraft brought a comment, but she will be speaking, so I'll leave that one alone. Ted Rother, he is opposed. Comments were, most cities with historical areas call the area Old Town. Downtown District has absolutely no meaning since there is really no downtown. This name change is really a dumb idea, serves no purpose. Whatever is done, the area will always be known as Old Town Rome. Next one is Henry and Neil Fernandez. They are opposed. Why are we renaming anything when we don't have a downtown area? It would be a big disappointment to go to a town that has nothing if you're traveling until the town is cleaned up. Rome isn't going to get anything. Leave things alone and start working on things that are needed. Next one is Scott and Shirley Mize. She will be speaking later, and she was opposed. Next one was Patty Mitchell. She'll be speaking later as well. She was also opposed. Gail Rother, she is opposed. I asked the City Council of Rome, why is there a need to change Old Town Rome name? As a resident of this community, I asked you to be transparent with your reason. It appears to be another issue with which to divide the citizens of Rome. Once again, we fight for survival. Chapter 2 of Comprehensive Plan, Community Analysis. 2.1, History of Rome. Last sentence says, in favor to city being composed of 5 communities, it says it all. The oldest and most historic homes and buildings are located in the heart of the city, which is known as Old Rome. The next person that spoke at the P&Z meeting was Sam Eason, and he was in favor. Next one that spoke at the P&Z meeting was Josh Majors. He was also opposed. Helen Wells, she is opposed. Randy Wells is opposed. Fabio Valdez, she was opposed. She has a letter. My name is Fabiola Valdez, and I live in Rome for almost 27 years. Rome has changed very little in 27 years, and I am completely opposed to renaming our Old Town Rome to a downtown district. If we had a thriving downtown with even a mix of contemporary to our historic ideas, I would agree that perhaps changing the name makes total sense. Rome has a main street, and from one stretch to the other, you can easily pass it in a little over a minute. Let's not try to compare Rome to something we are clearly not and are far from reaching. Attempting to change the name only masks the real issue because we do not have a thriving downtown by any stretch of the imagination. We have not seen any significant changes in decades. I would also like to add that simply stating that you want to amend the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Section 33A, OTR, by renaming it to Downtown District without outlining the goals, rationale, intent, and benefit for everyone, just not those in OTR, is hardly convincing. On the contrary, it's just an idea that carries no real thought or appeal. Please stop this nonsense. Next one is Savano and Rosa Valdez. They are opposed. We have lived in Rome for almost 50 years. This proposed change is unnecessary given our current downtown area that is designated as downtown. This is still an old town with very few businesses that hardly merit a name change. We have Main Street. I am not sure what the goals are for this name change. This sounds like a mixed use land change proposal, and we don't need it and we don't want it. Next one is Humberto Leal. He is opposed. As a resident who is directly impacted by this potential change, I am opposed. This is not needed. This is not Fort Worth, Arlington, or Austin, who have downtowns. Rome has hardly changed in the last 50 years. Next is Brandon Valdez. He is opposed. I have lived all my life in Rome for as long as I can remember. The last 24 years, Rome has not changed much, for better or worse. This proposed change in name does not suddenly make a downtown appeal. What a crude characterization for Old Town Rome that is not near this possibility. Please reconsider. Those were all of the written responses that we received. So now I'll go on and start pulling in those speakers. The first up is Deborah Beecraft. Ms. Beecraft, when you're ready, please.
I am here.
Thank you.
I am against the rezoning or changing the zoning classification of Old Town Rome Historic District to Downtown District for many reasons. One, you would not want businesses next door to you, neither do we. It would ruin our quiet neighborhood. We have a main street for that. Two, you have not told the citizens and the homeowners of Old Town Rome what these new ordinances will be or how they will affect us. And the third reason is the notice that was sent out seems misleading to me, and several others that by the comments and questions that are on social media and people I've spoken with. The notice letter makes it seem like a simple name change, and the majority of Old Town residents' responses were against it in the first hearing with the P&Z. Just a name change? The city administrator at the P&Z said that you were not going to change the name of Old Town Rome, just the zoning classification. Just? What that tells me after reading up on it is that you are changing the zoning for our area without the property owners asking for it. So in reality, it's just a way of doing eminent domain without even telling us that you are. Just so eventually you can force us into selling our homes because we won't want to be living and won't be able to live with businesses next door. It's underhanded and sneaky. Shame on all of you. I guess the transparency you campaigned on years ago has been overshadowed by power and greed. The people better wake up, because if you can do this to our neighborhood, you can do it to theirs also. How would you like to live with a 7-Eleven next door to you? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Patricia Mitchell. Miss Mitchell, when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm on the tail end now on where I live. It's the tail end of what, the whole map didn't make sense because it looks like you went kind of through the yard of the people right across the street from me and then back down the alley, which doesn't make sense with the map. I too am opposed to the change of Old Town Rome, and I agree with Mrs. Beecraft because at the P&Z hearing, you basically said, well, you can call it whatever you want. We're reclassifying the zoning. But this just doesn't make sense. And I'm looking back at some of the things planning and zoning. They approved the Moore Street. The chairman addressed council that he didn't think it was council's responsibility to fund the relocation of Bywell Estates utility poles. Serious lapses here are demonstrated. I don't think anybody's done any homework on it, but again, I agree with the others. There's no purpose. You've not defined a purpose for doing so. And considering those who have opposed council at one time or another, it almost appears to be retaliative. Okay, I think that's all I've got to say for right now.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, who requested to speak is Shirley Mize, and before she starts speaking, she handed me some information today, and she asked me to read it. We have a petition of which contains 110 listed signatories from the citizens that are opposed to changing the zone classification for Old Town Rome and the boundaries changes. We would really like for all council members to look at it and really take into consideration before you vote on the matter. Thank you for your time. Ms. Mize, please start when you're ready.
Thank you. Dear Mayor and council members, I am opposed to amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance by renaming OTR to Downtown District and changing the boundaries to proposed Downtown District. My opinion of a downtown district is not the whole downtown area of Old Town Rome, but it could be a few blocks of Main Street and part of the block of First Street. I often wonder how this city council comes up with these proposed ideas to pass ordinances without first asking any citizens that elected you as council into their current council seats, and listening to the citizens when the city has requested the citizens to come to a public hearing of which the council chooses to ignore these same citizens that voted this council to represent them as council. These requested public hearing meetings is like talking to a blank wall. You come to any of the Rhome City Council and P&Z meetings of which our citizens speak and are treated as if that citizen's presentation or opinion of concern is never heard, or this council did not listen to what the citizen would want or need in their opinion. For these council members, this is a disgrace to our citizens of our town. Wake up, council. Have respect for your citizens. Answer the question. When you are asked the question, I am asking this council to vote against the amending comprehensive zoning ordinance by leaving the OTR as is and not changing proposed boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Joanne Wilson. Ms. Wilson, when you're ready.
Yes, Shannon, thank you. I am opposed to the proposed zoning change also. What or who is to benefit from this change? Whose idea is it? From the names on the petition, the citizens do not want this. Rome does not have a downtown district, so why should we appear like we do? Why not wait for TxDOT's master thoroughfare plan to be completed to see what they're going to do to Rome? God only knows what it will look like when they get through. To even present citizens with this incomplete map is a slap in the face to the citizens. When questioned about this, I was told it is what the computer, i.e. Google Maps, show. Well, big deal. Also, it appears that Kimberly Horn gave this incorrect map to the city. I don't know what it cost us, but let them redo it, hopefully at no charge. It was an embarrassment to even send it out from the city. Also, even though legal counsel said that an erroneous zip code on the form to be returned, which has a Weatherford zip, is legally sufficient. Maybe so, but in my opinion, it is also ethically wrong. And as such, we should have either been redone or given an extension of a couple of weeks to make sure enough time had elapsed to ensure the city had proper resident response. By the way, at least myself and two other neighbors in my neighborhood of Old Town Rome did not get the initial letter. How many more was like that? Council, please vote no, and let's move on with important city business and not pay attention to this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Ashley Majors. Miss Majors, when you're ready.
All right, good evening. Before I start, I want to say that I can pretty much say that I am very passionate about Old Town Rome, with my seat on P&Z and as well as speaking out at multiple city council meetings, that I am an envisionary person of what we can do with Old Town Rome and what has not been done here. So with this being said, I think with growth heading our way, there is an ever-increasing appreciation of historic charm of the Old Town Rome. With walkable streets and neighbors standing in the streets talking and waving at passerbyers, the younger generation of builders, developers, and visitors alike have an appreciation for the architectural details, desirable location of Old Town Rome. We are ready for small boutiques, coffee shops, diners, and the exit sign that says, "Welcome to Old Town Rome," and not a downtown district. Downtown district is not easy to roll off your tongue, as some might say. Now on to the zoning ordinance. Me being even sitting on P&Z, I was not even notified of what of the ordinance changing, to what even the citizens are even being told. I constantly am questioning of what we are to be expected. So, council, I'm asking you to vote no and against it instead of saying aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, that is all that I have that signed up.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hang on just a minute. I'm going to open the floor to anyone who hasn't already spoken, who is not on the council. So if you'll identify your name and where you live, and then you'll have 3 minutes to register your position on this particular matter.
Yes, I would like to speak. My name is Gail Rother. I live at 199 West Morris in Old Town Rome. And I would like to make a few comments, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I have lived in Rome for 20 years. And like so many of the other speakers have said, that they haven't seen much change in Rome in that length of time, and some even longer years. I really don't think that you spent your money wisely, Council, when you asked this group to give you a comprehensive plan and you paid $18,000 for it. You know, I could save you a lot of money, because through the years that I have attended various council meetings, I've had the opportunity to say, you know, like Miss Majors just got through giving her vision of Rome. Well, I mentioned that vision a long time ago. You know, I used to live in Euless, and for a long time, well, they fought with, Grapevine fought with the airport, and finally, they decided to, you know, to join, to quit fighting and make something of their little town. And now you see what Grapevine looks like. Well, I don't know if we'll be that large, but you know, we can look that way on a smaller scale. But I have a feeling that the city council members for the last 20 years have not had much vision. If they had, they wouldn't have sold a good portion of the First Street to the Church of Christ for a parking lot. I don't understand why there has never been any vision up until now. As far as the, you know, I attended the P&Z meeting the other day, the virtual meeting, and I was assured, I listened, and we were assured that by Mr. Knight, the chairman, and council member Eason, that, and they said it several times, repeated it several times, the community of Old Town Rome will never change its name. We would never change it to Downtown District. This name would only be used as a zoning classification.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ruther. Is there anyone else on the line that hasn't already spoken that would like to register their position?
Yes, this is Ronnie Moore.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Moore.
My address is 241 East Aurora. I'm opposed to what you're trying to do. I've been here probably almost longer than anybody has ever lived in this town right now. I was here when we had a bus stop and 2 or 3 cafes downtown, is what y'all are trying to call it. I don't know who the rocket scientist was that came up with the ideal, but I would really prefer to leave this Old Town Rome alone. Y'all did not only just upset everybody that's heard about it, but you upset my mother. And when y'all start upsetting my mother, you start upsetting me. My mother doesn't want y'all to come into, new people coming into this town and trying to change something for no reason except for maybe concrete and having to spend millions and millions of dollars to do what you all think you want to do as on your zoning. But anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to register their position?
Yes, this is Lisa Ann Wilson, 240 West First Street. And
Yes,
I'm
Ms.
kind of like Miss Moore. I've been here my entire life, never lived anywhere else. And I feel this, it's not just a zoning change, as it's been said. I think like like Ronnie said, you don't mess with something that's not broke. And I think it's a lot of respect and pride in this old town. My grandfather owned a gas station here. Many of my family members, cousins, Harvey's grocery store, etc. There's a lot of history, a lot of pride here. And I just hate to see it go down the drain and disrespected. The petition alone should
show that a lot of people don't want it. So just for once, listen to the citizens. Have a great night.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, is there anyone else? Okay, not hearing any other people wanting to speak. We'll go ahead and close our public hearing at 7:30 p.m. We will go on to regular session new business. Agenda item I, discussion and any necessary action regarding a rezoning request by property owner representative Sean Sahihi of Legal Property located on Holly Parkway, Rome, Texas, legally described as 3.467 subdivision BC Rome addition. This request is to change the current zoning of retail to the proposed zoning of planned development. This is the time that we'll have discussion with the council. Just want to let you know that Mr. Sahihi is on the line. If you have a specific question in regard to the plan development request, we can have him try to answer that. But I want to remind everybody this is a rezoning request. It's not a site plan. And so we want to reserve specific questions such as landscape and green space and this is all conceptual, and so all of these details are not finalized, nor are they being proposed at this time. The only thing being proposed is the zoning change, and the concept plan is the only thing required at this time under our ordinance. So I just want to make sure that's clear for the council. So council members, would you like to hear from Mr. Sahihi a little bit before you begin your discussion? Okay, Mr. Sahihi, if you would unmute, and then you're welcome to register some comments with the council on what your request is.
Hello, thanks for having me. Yeah, my request would be exactly how it's pointed out here, about end up being probably about 29, 30 townhomes on that portion, and then a designated retail spot along that right side, which would fit quite a few businesses and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. City Administrator, what was the result of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting from Monday, September 14th? I think we've got a muted City Administrator. There you go.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with some changes. The map that you see before you, and I know this is a little bit difficult to see. I know you have it in your packet. The original request was in red. So the original request basically was this square right here would be retail, and then the rest of it would be townhomes. They recommended, however, the P&Z recommended that the retail be expanded to essentially be the same, mirror the back of Dollar General as someone referred to earlier. So this whole section here would be retail, and then this would be townhome. For reference, this little red square is actually 14,000 square feet. So if you look at all of it, I mean, I haven't done the, the measurements or anything, but it's probably, 30,000 total if you look at it, because it's more than, this is 14, and then you still have a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. All right, council members, does anyone have questions, comments, thoughts that you want to share with the group? Go ahead, Mr. Crenshaw.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. From what I'm hearing, there's not a lot of pushback on this. I lean to agree with the P&Z's recommendation, and I agree with those that commented during the public hearing that we do need retail in this town. However, we must preface that with the basic economic knowledge that unless you have enough people here spending money, businesses are not going, nobody's going to invest money to open a business that won't be profitable. So we need, it's kind of a catch-22. We need to have people here that will spend the money. Then the businesses will come. If there's money here, they'll come in to get it. So I lean towards agreeing with what the P&Z recommends with these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with thoughts, comments? Mayor Pro Tem, are you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay, I found the right button. Sorry. I spent a little time looking at our comprehensive plan and in relation to that. And so some of the comprehensive plan pointed out that some of the things that from citizen input was that we needed a variety of housing opportunities, affordable housing opportunities. And that list included condos, apartments, and townhomes, and that kind of thing. And so I also know that affordable housing, especially in the area of the Old Rome area, that since I assume, I'm making this assumption, Sean, that this is going to be affordable housing of some sort, that those folks can provide a lot of employee base to the retail and commercial that we hope to attract. So that would be within walking distance of our Old Town area, so that we could have that employee base that would need to work with the retail and commercial. So I think it has multiple uses here. Also, I agree a lot with the public comments. And Sean, I would encourage you to work as you come up with your plan. I understand that changing the zoning is that's not final approval on your ultimate plan. And I would encourage you to work closely with the thoroughfare folks. I do believe that the parking issue, the traffic issue, the number of large trucks that go through there, the things that Ms. Wilson pointed out about fire department and emergency vehicles and trash and all that kind of stuff is going to be critical. I have lived in a townhome back in Wichita, Kansas. And so I can tell you from experience that it was an enjoyable experience. I liked the townhome experience, but parking was one of the challenges. And so I hope that that will be a priority with you as well. So please work closely with the master plan. Please work closely with the different committees. And I think that you received good public information tonight to help you be alert, because they've been around a long time and they know those troublesome areas over in that part of town. So I think that was good information for you. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other council members with comments? Councilmember McCabe?
So I agree with everything Elaine and Kenny have said so far. Again, it's just a conceptual plan. So when they come back with something more definitive, at that time we can start addressing issues. The only problem I kind of see that we may have issues with is entrance and exit there on Main Street and that yield sign in front of City Hall. People already have issues with not obeying that, making U-turns and whatnot. I think that's only going to cause more problems there. So that's something that we may need to look at as well going along with this. I know this is something that is not part of his plan, but I think it's something that we would need to look at if we are bringing in more people, more businesses, more truck traffic in that area.
Yes, sir, that's a good point. All right, any other council members at this time? Councilmember Eason?
Thank you. My first question is for Mr. Sahihi. I haven't heard anyone ask him. He made the request that we have the rezoning as specified in what's in red in the picture that we have in our packet. But I haven't heard his reply as to what is recommended by the P&Z acceptable to him. Because if it is not, then I think the point of our discussing this is moot.
Yeah, definitely that will work. What the line there? Anything more is not really gonna work. Yeah, if we keep it like this, it'll work. Yes.
So if we were to make everything on the south side of Holly, yes, everything, there you go. Thank you, Miss Cynthia. If we made all of that retail, that would not be sufficient. That's
That
not
was
anything
not.
for.
Yeah, correct. Not sufficient. As like you said, the population is just not there for it to work.
I want to
Yeah.
hear. I want to hear you say,
Yeah.
okay, because I haven't heard your opinion on these changes.
Yeah, that will work, but if the whole thing is retail, that will not work for me and what I'm trying to do. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for our mayor. I didn't see Mr. Atkins online. Do we have a city attorney on the call?
Yes, we do. Our regular attorney, Carvin Adkins, is not present tonight, but James Donovan with the same law firm is present tonight and able to help if we have any legal issues to discuss.
Now, the question I have for Mr. Donovan, I do not believe requires executive session. Of course, if he decides that it does, then we can reserve that question for then. But it has to do with the usage and term called a planned development district. Okay. I know that when we reviewed the planned development district for Bywell Estates, my memory tells me that the planned development district took precedent over any other zoning ordinances associated with that area. Is that true?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so the planned development district is in itself the new zoning, the base zoning for the land that you're talking about. The only reason it's called a planned development, and you'll see different planned developments with different uses, is because they're essentially negotiated zoning and they're specialized. And so therefore this type of like mixed use, or if you have certain, in other cities that I've seen, you can have really large single family developments and they become PDs or PUDs, depending on what the city calls it. And they put in specific design standards or so they basically amend the standard zoning regulations into a very specific, very specialized way, and you have a underlying zoning ordinance, a PD ordinance that will come through before this body if this application proceeds as it could, that would outline those specific uses, specific design standards, and would regulate this land under that specific zoning ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I have not seen, and perhaps I'm just not finding it in my packet, what the definition of this new planned development district is. Because I know when I reviewed the planned development district specified for Bywell, it was quite detailed. It was many, many pages, and it was detailed. And I haven't seen that planned development district definition for this rezoning request. Can someone lead me to that in the packet?
Well, Mayor, do you want me to reply?
Sure, go ahead.
So what this is just conceptual. So as James discussed, right now, you are going to define that conceptually by how you break it up between the townhomes and the retail. So if you, for example, accepted the P&Z's recommendation, this would all be townhomes, this would be retail. Then the next step would then to be go back to a detailed site plan. and we would get all of those details that James just discussed. And some of the things that have been mentioned tonight, some things that were mentioned in P&Z.
Well, my concern is, and this is a historic issue of something that has been troubling for quite a while now. I know that in the planned development district for Bywell, it makes no reference to underground utilities. And I have a very difficult time voting for or approving any planned development district that is going to potentially allow for above ground utility poles. Okay, so now I realize that we will get an I'm hoping that we will get an opportunity to review this planned development district definition before it gets approved and anything gets built. But I don't want to take this opportunity and let it go by, and then all of a sudden and forgive me, Mr. Sahihi, I don't want to just take someone's word that they will do that, okay? That they will assure us that they'll have the underground utilities and other items like that.
Okay.
When will we get those details?
Can either Cynthia or Mr. Donovan kind of walk us through the process? So if the council does take action tonight, whether approval or not, if they do an approval on this request, the next step is for the property owner to develop standards to go in the plan development that come back to council for approval. Is that correct?
Yes. So I don't know if James, if you want to, I'll just walk through, and then James, if you want to fill in anything that I miss. I have actually the plan development district. I put up some of the information here in the zoning ordinance. If you guys approve this conceptual site plan, then the developer, we will work with the developer and staff, and that would be engineers and city staff with the detailed site plan, going over all of those things. That would be things like fire lanes, that would be the transportation, that would be parking, all of those, a lot of the items that were already discussed. P&Z would then conduct a public hearing for that plan development ordinance and detailed site plan. And make recommendation then to the council, and then the council would conduct the public hearing again for the specific plan development ordinance and that detailed site plan. So then after that, I mean, if the council did approve it, then there would be a replat, which is like a final plat, and that would have to go through P&Z and council. And then the next step would be pulling the appropriate building permits. That's from a high level. So the detailed site plan, again, would include things like, scale drawings for the streets, for alleys, for the building, the lot sizes, areas reserved as green spaces. I mean, all of those details that you have been mentioning, Councilman Eason. It would have a landscape plan. It would have a drainage plan. It would have architectural plans showing the elevations and signage. It would have the place, I mean, where one of the questions that came up in P&Z were the mailboxes. And that would be, a cluster mailbox site. So those would all be a part of that next step then.
Thank you. I want to work with Mr. Sahihi, and I want him to be able to take advantage of the land that he owns. And I mean, that's his, I want to be a good neighbor to him, okay? So that we can help him take best advantage of his purchase. I do not want, though, to cause him to spend additional money if he doesn't understand the minimal type things that are going to be required of that plan development district. Okay. So again, you talk about fire lanes, you talk about no parking on the street, you talk about how things go together. I know that he has put together a what I think is a very nice drawing, but I don't know how married to that drawing he is, because I'm betting that, I mean, drainage wise, fire department wise, police department wise, that drawing just might not be feasible. I don't want to do Mr. Sihihi a disservice. I want to work with him, but again, I know that I also want to work with all the citizens of our town. And again, I use the example of above ground utilities. That seems to be a showstopper with many people in this community. So that if that weren't specified in the plan development district, we would have to say no. I don't know. I'm feeling like there's a cart horse issue that's going on here of approving to make it a plan development district without knowing what the plan development district is. I don't know. There's a process I'm not familiar with. I haven't been present when we've developed, but okay, that's my 2 cents worth. See if anyone else has any comments.
All right, thank you, council member. Anyone else want to add to that? Okay, if there's no other discussion from council, you have the recommendation on the table from P&Z to approve with the changes noted in green on your screen. Is there anyone that wants to entertain a motion regarding this matter?
I'd like to ask Mr. Sihihi one last time. Are you willing to abide by the restrictions that are placed on a plan development district? Any restrictions we put on it in the future?
Yes, I will abide. Yeah, I think it does mention underground utilities in that packet. And I've talked with Cynthia about some of these restrictions, and they all seem fair and reasonable. And yes, I am willing to work and accept.
Okay, well then I would like to make a motion that we approve based upon the changes recommended by, we accept the P&Z recommendation along with their changes represented in green.
Okay, I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? Mr. Crenshaw, I see a hand. Are you seconding that?
Yes, I'll second.
All right, thank you, sir. With a motion and a second on the table, we'll go for a vote. Councilmember McCabe?
Aye.
Councilmember Crenshaw?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Priest?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Makowski?
Aye.
Thank you. And Councilmember Eason?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carries on the zoning request change. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Sihihi. We appreciate your input.
Thank you for everything. I appreciate all the feedback. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Okay, on to our next agenda item J, discussion and any necessary action regarding an amendment of the comprehensive zoning ordinance, section 33A, OTR Old Town Rome, by renaming section 33A to Downtown District and amending the boundaries of the proposed downtown district. Before we get started, I want to clarify for the record that this is the first time this has been brought to council, and some of the comments showed that people didn't understand the process, that it was developed at the P&Z level, and it's been discussed for nearly 2 years now at the P&Z level. You know, COVID did happen, and there was a little hiccup in that, but as far back as June 4th, 2018, this was being discussed at the council level. And I'd just like to read the minutes from this meeting from over 2 years ago now. And it's the agenda item for the P&Z was discussion regarding the comprehensive review of Chapter 14 zoning of the City of Rome Code of Ordinances. And in the official minutes, it says commissioners recap their thoughts of what an overlay is and how the different areas could include different subzones. The commissioners all agreed that there was a need for different regulations within each zoning district. Discussion ensued in regards that defining each zone location should be the first step in the review process. Commissioner Majors asked the commission what they found in their review of the zoning ordinance from the last month. The commissioners each stated that they were having a tough time identifying the boundaries of each zoning district. Commissioner Knight summarized the discussion and asked that all commissioners drive through the city and bring their suggestions on what the street boundaries should be for the areas of the downtown overlay district and Old Town Rome to the July meeting. So this has been a more than 2-year conversation, and the council, this has not been brought to council yet. So I think it's unfair to label our council members as having taken any action on something that they are just now hearing about in 2020. So I wanted to make that clarification before I open it up to council. But basically, there are 2 issues on the table as I see them in this amendment. One is the boundary itself. And as noted from the P&Z minutes from 2018, there was some confusion on where the boundaries were. So boundary of this Old Town Rome district overlay has been confusing, and then there's the name issue. So when you discuss it at the council level, I would like you to first address the boundary issue, and then you can go on to the name issue, so that way we can separate and see what you really think about each part of that. We've heard quite a few comments, so we don't want to get muddled and miss the 2 main points in the discussion. So I will open it up to the floor. Mr. Crenshaw, I see a hand.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Regarding the boundaries, when we first started all this long-range planning, our vision was to create an economic district within Rome down Main Street, Business 287, and BC Rome. I'm not sure, I don't see the reason behind expanding it to cover all of Old Town. We wanted to use Main Street and BC Rome as the place where we had entertainment, restaurants, whatnot. I don't approve or agree with this boundaries that are as they're set currently, and that's all I'm gonna say on the boundaries. As far as Old Town Rome, my personal feelings don't matter. I ain't here to represent my personal feelings, but the people that live here and live there. And from what I'm hearing, it's a no. So people don't want it. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember McCabe, I see a hand.
Yes, Mayor, I just want to let you know that I did submit an affidavit of conflict of interest to recuse myself from this discussion and action based on residents within the area.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you letting us know. Councilmember Makowski.
I tend to agree with Kenny. I was always thinking that, the retail district would be along Main Street, and that would be eventually our downtown area. Old Town Rome needs to stay as Old Town Rome, and I think basically that's where I think, our development needs to be. The downtown district, I think, has been blown out of proportion by some people. And there's a lot of stuff going around that, one person says one thing and another person says another thing. And really we need to get it all set down, in lockdown in writing.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
I just want a little more clarification if I could ask for that. when I went back and reviewed the 2004 Old Town Rome Overlay District, there are specifications in there that had to do with a blended community. And it seemed that the purpose was, first of all, they were updating something, an ordinance that was put in place in 1990. So that was 14 years after the fact. And as they look, it appeared to me that the purpose of that was to take that original town of Rome, basically that area, knowing it was already a blended area of the original town of Rome, of residential, commercial, retail. And so they knew that as growth came, it would also be new construction that blended in with that area. And so there were specifications to do with building. There was also information on how there would be exceptions and how they would be handled. And so I think the overlay district, and correct, that's what I'm saying, correct me if I'm wrong with this, the overlay district was a designated area, designated zoning area that talked about how the construction, how the renovations, how growth that came in would then blend in with the character of the historic area, but also knowing it was going to be a multi-use area. Then it was my impression that, as the mayor, as you pointed out back a couple of years ago, that, you know, we fast forward, that was another 14 years, and we look then to see what the situation is in that area and try to make sure that it fits our conditions today, what that blend looks like today, and then possible future growth. I think the word overlay is kind of a strange word, but I do think that it was more to talk about how that blended area could work together to keep that fabric that we're all looking for. Now, is that correct? Is that a correct assumption on my part?
I'm going to let the city administrator kind of give a little bit of the background and answer that question for you. Cynthia, do you mind kind of jumping in and?
Sure. Well, and yes, so to answer that question specifically, yes, I mean, the overlay district is, you don't change the base zoning of an area. You're taking this overlay district and you're putting it on top. Understand, and the reason why, as I understand it from looking at the research that I've done since I've been here, was because it is Old Town Rome and you have older homes, and so you want to give some credence to that if there's going to be redevelopment in that area, and understanding that it's also a mixed use area. When you look at the comprehensive development planning then that took place, you know, a year and a half ago, some of those things were looked at. I think Councilmember Crenshaw talked about that on the zoning, what the existing zoning is and what future zoning could be. So you have that retail along Main Street. You've got retail and commercial along BC Rome. On Old Mill, you have some commercial there. So that's, you know, that's kind of the whole idea of an overlay district in an older area, is accommodating for the unique characteristics of that area. So I've put up here just the background. I do want to, that the in 2004, you are correct, Mayor Pro Tem, that the ordinance 33A, which is the Old Town Overlay District, Old Town Rome Overlay District, was created using this map right here. So you can see the date on that. That was part of the ordinance. And that ordinance did include several, it's actually pretty short, but it included several specifics, such as off-street parking, rear yard setbacks, front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, that sort of thing. So in 2018, then the council, you recognized that, as I understand, you wanted to update the zoning ordinance en masse. And I think, as I understand from my conversation with the chairman and looking through some of the history, some of the members, they decided, well, let's start with Old Town Rome. And so they started talking about that, and the mayor read the minutes from one of those meetings. And so they were looking at, okay, well, this is actually the current boundary within for the district that was created back in 2004. Does it really need to be that big? So they started talking, and then you all had the comprehensive development planning process. So they thought, well, why don't we wait for that, which was a wise decision on their part. Why don't we wait for that planning process, which included that public engagement, to see what, where we go from here and see what comes out of that. And some of the things, so when it was completed, some of the things that came out of that was, a downtown district that was identified as a key project. And so this is just a page out of the executive summary. In your downtown development, I mean, the purpose then is to develop a downtown core. It's usually going to be a mixed use. So you've got the older homes, you've got commercial, you've got residential, it's the Old Town Rome. So you've got that unique area. How can we capitalize on that unique area and preserve the history in that area as well, and that character within that area? So that's really the kind of the definition of what a downtown Rome is. So the P&Z started looking at, they came back to that, started looking at that. They had several conversations about what that would be. Here's the original. They started with the boundary. Here's the original. Do we really want it that big? And it was agreed that, well, let's make it smaller. And so that's where this came up. And this is a meets and bounds map, so you can see exactly where it goes. The reason why I heard some comment about it looks like it goes through the middle of a property. This is BC Rome right here. It's going back behind because it's taking in the property that fronts that road. So that's why it's going behind on BC Rome. It's taking in the gas station and the giant burger here. The reason it's going here is taking in this property that fronts Old School Road, and it comes down and around, taking in the back of the Moore Street homes that are going in now. And then it comes again down here. It's taking in those properties that front that street, and then going up here. This is of course Old Mill, and it's going on the other side of Old Mill. Of course, you've got the railroad there, and their second, and then it goes back around. So if you look at, I think what I'd like to kind of get to here is a map, and just as a caveat, a disclaimer, this was hand drawn. So you guys see the exact maps here and here. This map is, the red is the original boundary when Old Town Rome Overlay District was created. And that's what that is. The green then would be that smaller boundary. And so what does that really mean for these people inside the green, which is the proposed boundary. Well, those inside that boundary, they will not see any change from the actual overlay district, the zoning classification, the rules and regulations that make up that zoning classification. So they wouldn't see any change. Those outside, that green that are in the red, they used to be in it, they won't be subject to those stricter requirements that are a part of that zoning classification of the Old Town Rome overlay district. So I think that's the other thing, the reason, and I'm going to move on to the name change. Again, the comprehensive development plan identified downtown district as a key project. So this would just be like the first step of creating that vision that's pretty much laid out in the comprehensive development plan, creating that vision of what that downtown district could be. It's not, I can't stress enough, it's not renaming Old Town, it's just that overlay district. And the only reason that I said downtown district is it was in the comprehensive development plan. It will be descriptive of what the council is trying to do. Now, in the future, if the council were to move forward with this in the future, would the actual downtown district be named downtown district? I wouldn't think so. It is pretty generic, as some people have said. It probably would be, just like Old Town Rome. I mean, even in the original map, it doesn't say Old Town Rome, it says City of Rome, but we all call it Old Town Rome. So I think with the downtown district, I can see it being called Old Town Rome, Rome Old District, Downtown, Old Rome Downtown District. You could have a naming contest and to help create that vision of what you want to create. The downtown district would just be literally the name within the zoning ordinance of the Old Town Rome overlay district, just to shorten it. And also to try to create that base of the vision for moving forward. And so it would avoid that confusion then with the Old Town Rome as a geographical area within Rome. The zoning classification, as I said, it's got specific requirements.
I think we have a question from Councilmember Easton.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Cynthia. But before you go another 30 minutes, I have some comments to make. First of all, I appreciate our mayor saying, let's take these two subjects separately, okay? Let's first talk about the metes and bounds and what would be in it, and then let's talk about the name, okay? So let's leave these separate, okay? Now, when I look at these original boundaries, in 2004, I'm going to take a wild guess that our city council and the planning and zoning took a best guess at what the city was going to need then, okay, when they created this overlay district. Well, when we look at where we are today, and we see that that goes through, but not fully encompassing Crown Point, it's an obvious thing that we need to redefine it. Now, I heard what Mr. Crenshaw said about he was envisioning going down BC Rome and then going down Main Street and just a block off. And Mr. Crenshaw, I hope I don't misrepresent you here. That is what was in my mind, okay? Now, I've been to not every P&Z meeting in the past couple of years, but I've been to almost every meeting. And I know that the discussions as to the purpose of this overlay district, that they've changed, they've mutated over time. Okay, so if I could, Mr. Knight, are you currently on the call?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you tell me why I mean, what is the intent of bringing in so many of those residential homes like on 2nd Street and 1st Street and Morris into that overlay district? Can you give me some background on that, please?
Yes, it all has to do with our comprehensive plan, which we went through for a long time. And it defined as a key project this downtown district. And it describes it as being a mixed use area, a combination of both residential and retail businesses and some commercial. Now, to control where those go, that's for another day, but we kind of know where we want them. We want them on BC Rome and on Main Street, and maybe half a block off each way. Who knows? That's not what we're here to decide now. But that was our main purpose, and I think that was the main purpose back when this whole overlay was decided on, because at that time it included all the Old Town Rome homes down in there. We just decided that it needed to be brought to an area that we can define better and that didn't include such a wide swath of town, and an area that would lend itself to be a multi-use area where you had people that lived there and could walk to their retail or their businesses, could live there and also operate their business there, just all kinds of things. And it would keep, perhaps further down the road, the kinds of businesses we don't like maybe a 7-Eleven in the middle of, across the street from the church where the old City Hall is, say. Just those kinds of things. We would have the little boutique shops, the coffee shop, hopefully several restaurants, somewhere in there. But yet you still have people that live there too, and that's why they call it a mixed use area. And that's the way we tackle that as P&Z.
But that's why you brought it all the way down to the corner of School Road and Morris, because that's a lot of residential area, and I'm not aware of any retail interests in that area. I mean,
probably wouldn't be, and that would be great, because you do have the old school building, you've got the current community center, you've got the fire department there, you've got the police department across the street. So there again, if you're going to cut out all the residential, it's not going to be a mixed use area anymore. It's just going to be a economic engine to sell off, to have retail and get sales tax from. It's not going to be a quaint little walking around area where the citizens in downtown, Old Town Rome, can walk to where they need to do business.
Okay, so let me, I'm going to reword this. So if we only went with BC Rome and Main Street, say all the way down to 287 to include the pharmacy, the Dollar General, yeah, all the way down, even including the Motel 6, if you will. If we went that far, then it wouldn't be a mixed use. It would just be a retail economic engine, as you said. So your thoughts are as to why we included so many of these residential areas is so that it could grow into, and you could have the boutiques in their isolated places. You know, say someone bought a house on the corner of, I don't know, First and Dogwood. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. Then they could perhaps put a small business in there, and it could just be a neighborhood business. Is that the type thing you're talking about?
Yeah, as long as it meets whatever criteria gets set up down the road as to what the limitations are in businesses in the actual resident areas. I think we all envision most of the businesses going to be somewhere along Main Street and somewhere along BC Rome. That's where it makes sense.
Okay.
I don't think a person's going to drive into the middle of town and find the service station or something.
Okay.
The reason, okay, thank you. I'll mute back here.
I'd like to yield to Mr. Crenshaw.
Thank you. Now that we've had some clarification on what's actually being done here, from what I understand, this district is just a entity wherein will be different zoning classifications within that district, where whatever happens there may be controlled through zoning. So there might be 4 or 5 districts within Rome one day. So I think the heartburn with this, with the citizens, is the name. I haven't, from what now that I understand exactly what's going on here, yeah, we need a district. As long as we can control what goes on within that district through zoning. Now, with that said, why can't we just name it Old Town Rome District? And then my second question is about the recusals. I don't understand why Mr. McCabe needs to recuse himself when we all live in Rome. This affects everyone that lives within the city limits of Rome. I don't think there's a conflict of interest. I don't see it. Everybody here has a vested interest in what happens here. So maybe the city attorney can explain that to me, because I just don't see the need for a recusal. He has a say just like anybody else that lives here.
Sure, I think that's probably something in executive session that you might need to discuss with the attorney.
Okay, but I would be for having this district, provided the name be Old Town Rome District, not Downtown District.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Priest, I see a hand there too.
Right. I just want to also clarify that this overlay district, they're not proposing to change any of the ordinance that is included in the 2004, only the boundary change and possibly a name change. And so it is really for the protection of the people that live in that area, that the fabric, that old town feel, that combination of residential that are zoned residential, those that are zoned business, those that are zoned commercial, those that are zoned something else, that they are in a situation where it is a menagerie, and it is for their protection that overlay district is there, so that we don't lose the fabric, so that we don't have something bizarre that comes in and takes away from that element that we all love so much. So, but I have to agree with Mr. Crenshaw. I think that if we get to the name issue, yes, it is a district. That is in both proposals here for names. I'm also, but the old town is where Rome began. It is the common denominator for this entire community, no matter where we live, no matter how far removed we are from Main Street over there. It is the common denominator for every one of us. And so I think the name Rome and Old Town paints the picture of what our priorities are here. And we don't want to lose that fabric. So whatever, if we put Rome first or we put Old Town first, I don't really care. But I think that it's more, I think the name is more about our community and our character. And if we look at our comprehensive plan, throughout that plan are pictures of Old Town throughout. There are references repeatedly of Old Town area. And I don't think we can get away from that name. I don't think we should get away from that name. So I just say I agree with Kenny on that.
Okay.
Can I
yes,
just
ma'am.
put one point of clarification real quick? I heard discussions about zoning. So just here's our zoning map right now. It's kind of, I can't zoom in any quicker anymore, but that Old Town Rome overlay district as it currently sits right now, essentially, looks like about this area. Okay. So I think it's important, again, just to remember that this is just an overlay district. So this commercial right here on the north side of BC Rome, the retail on the south side of BC Rome, the retail here that goes along Main Street, this commercial here, that those base zones of the zoning map will not change. Just like this won't. This is different single family residence here. This yellow pretty much is single family residence, and that base zone won't change. So to Chairman Knight's point, there won't be a 7-Eleven in this area here. I just wanted to point that out. So this base zoning will not change. It's just the overlay district as a mixed use overlay.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Mikowski, I see a hand. Do you have some comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the discussion is going well. I think very well, because we're getting some definition now. And I think people who were objected to this just see that district name is just that, a district name. Everything remains as Old Town Rome. And if it's a mixed use community in that area, that's the way it was intended to be originally, and that's the way it's going to stay. The retail area is going to be along Main Street in BC Rome, and virtually everything's going to be, like I said, everything is basically going to stay about the same the way it's been laid out for years. So, I think we should get rid of that name, Downtown Rome District. Just call it Old Rome District or something like that, like Kenny said.
Okay. All right. So I think we've heard from everybody. I think the city administrator's done an excellent job trying to explain all the pieces. This is more complicated than anybody realized. I think when it first started discussions 2 years ago at the P&Z. We will. Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback. If you're on the phone, can you mute your phone? We're getting some feedback from somebody. We got one caller with a lot of feedback. If you can mute yourself. All right, I think that was it. Thank you. So now the question is, it sounds like the council is not in agreement on both items. It sounds like as far as the boundaries, the council, and correct me if I'm wrong, agrees that the boundaries are unclear and need some changing. Mr. Crenshaw, yes, sir?
No, I think we all really understand the boundaries now and the need for it. I don't think that's the problem. I think the only issue is the name.
Okay.
Old Town Rome District is agreeable to most everybody, and that's what the citizens want it to stay as. So we can have the district. Yeah, I understand why we're doing it now, but the people want the name to stay the same, and that's the way I would vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. That's what I'm reading between the lines, between the council members. That the boundary is not so much an issue, but it's the name. And you are hearing what the people are saying about that tonight. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. All right, so let's set the name aside for a minute. Are you agreeable to the boundary as proposed in this amendment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Easton, are you agreeable to this as well? Yes, sir. Mr. Easton, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at the map on page, let's see, I think we're looking at exhibit. Oh, I don't have an exhibit number. It shows the new boundaries where it has says downtown district, city boundary, parcels. It's a color picture. Oh, it's 38 of 91 of our packet.
Mm-hmm.
If we could look at that. Do we have that? There it is.
Can you see that?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
Okay. As I'm looking at this, I understand why we would follow Old Mill, Old Mill Road. Why are we continuing down the railroad track all the way into that little notch that takes us out to Randall? Is the first question. My second question is, how did we decide upon separating? Let's see, it looks like that is putting the pharmacy in the overlay district, but the business next to it is not. And then we're going between two lots, not on a road. That very southernmost boundary seems kind of confusing to me.
Okay,
Why are we following Old Town Rome or Old Mill, or are we trying to get the businesses on both sides of Old Mill? Is that the point?
Yes, because this is commercial. If you look on Old Mill, which is where the cursor is right now, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so on both sides, once the old mill, the old flour mill, okay, on that side, that is actually all zoned commercial
Okay.
currently.
And that includes that little notch that goes back down to Randall.
Yes, it follows a property line.
Okay.
Yes.
And just to review, for those people that said they were against the overlay district, it seemed like itself, we already have a huge overlay district. So this is merely just adding refinement, making it smaller.
Yes.
Okay, just want to review that. As to the name, I think that perhaps the city has botched how we communicated the name, since there's so much confusion associated with the name. I would suggest that for now we leave the name alone, but we add a task for the future so that we can have in our ordinances a very clear distinction with, we're going to call this section of create bounds that says this section of the city of Rome we will call Old Town. And then we're going to have another section of the city that represents the zoning overlay. And we can call that Old Town Overlay. But I think we need to make a clear distinction so that we don't have any confusion in the future when someone says, to what are we referring? So that somebody can say, I live in Old Town Rome and its bounds are specified by this ordinance. Okay? Because right now that seems to be so much of what the confusion is people say they live in Old Town Rome. They live in Old Town Rome, absolutely, but we don't have anything that clearly defines it. And now we're talking about an overlay, and we were reducing the size of that overlay district, and people are justifiably confused, thinking that we would be changing the name and the size of what is currently called Old Town Rome. So I think we've kind of botched the whole naming aspect of it.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, I see a hand.
I just want to reiterate that there is nothing officially named Old Town Rome except this overlay. The original town of Rome is the name of the subdivision of the plat, not the word subdivision, of the original plat of the original part of Rome. If you go to the courthouse and you look at it, it is called the original town of Rome. So only the overlay is named Old Town Overlay District. I think the word overlay is a little confusing unless you spend a lot of time looking at this to understand its purpose. So if we want to continue with the name that still has the word overlay in it, that's fine. Old Town Rome is it's not a designated area particularly. It's just the historical part, the original part of Rome, but it's not anywhere officially that name. So it is a love name. It is a nickname. It specifies the original part. And you know what? I just want to go back to that's a common denominator for all of us, every one of us, no matter where we live. And when we look at the comprehensive plan and we look at the surveys and the questionnaires, never once have I seen anybody say, we don't want that. We love that fabric. And I'm hoping that this area becomes the common denominator, the part where we can all get along. You know, and maybe this is not the time and the place, but I'm going to go right ahead and say it anyway. One of the things in our comprehensive plan is listed that says that we have strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and we have threats. That's part of our comprehensive plan. And one of the threats, there were about 3 or 4, but one of the threats was our inability to get along in this town. We've got to get past that, and I pray that downtown, Old Town Rome, that needs revitalization, it needs infrastructure, it needs our immediate attention to deal with the things that we need. I don't want to get them, crying emotional here, but I am saying that we need to get rid of that threat and we all need to move forward together. And I think that Old Rome is exactly what we need. And it is a place of camaraderie, but we have to make a commitment to each other to make that commitment. That's it. I'm through.
Well said, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, so I think we've heard everyone's thoughts on the matter, and we're getting on in our meeting now. Is anyone considering an amended motion on the proposed renaming, or not renaming, the proposed amendment, amending the boundaries, if not anything regarding the name? Mr. Crenshaw, I see a hand.
Yes, I will make a motion. We approve the boundaries for this district as laid out, and with the amendment that it be named Old Town Rome District.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor amending the boundaries and then having the name be Old Town Rome District. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crenshaw. All right.
Before we second that or vote, does that mean that we can no longer refer to people that live on Redbud, Oak, Virginia, Front Street, 3rd Street? They're on the east side of the railroad track. Is that no longer going to be considered Old Town Rome?
That is not correct. They're still part of the Old Town Rome historic geographic area. I think the boundary change, one of the goals was that Crown Point was in this overlay district. And so if you say that this overlay district is the name of Old Town and it encompasses everything in Old Town, then that's an incorrect assumption, because then we're saying that everybody in Crown Point has been in Old Town Rome. And common language in town, as long as I've been here, is Crown Point's its own area, Old Town Rome is its own old area. So I think that was some of the misunderstanding that people had, and there's a lot of communication that went on, and people didn't understand the difference between the district and the original town of Rome. The original town of Rome is still intact. What this boundary will do is just take out some of the things, being Crown Point specifically, that shouldn't have ever been in an overlay district.
I'm in favor of adopting the new meets and bounds, but I'm not in favor of any name change of any sort. That if we want to start working on name changes, then we need to be a little more comprehensive into what gets named what, what's Old Town, what's Original Town, what's the overlay district, and we need to be very specific in all uses.
Okay. All right. So we do have a motion on the floor to amend the boundaries as proposed and leave the name as Old Town Rome District.
Well, Mayor, I will amend my motion that we approve the meets and bounds for the amendment to redraw this overlay district and leave the name the same. Old Town Rome Overlay District. Just change the boundaries.
Okay. So I have amendment to the motion on the floor. Councilmember Makowski, are you seconding that motion, or do you have a comment?
Yes, no, I'm seconding, but I had one question. Why can't we extend that district down to 287 along Main Street, and to include the businesses that are in that area? Is there a reason we didn't do that?
That is a proposal that came out of the planning and zoning. So if you want to propose something different.
I think part of the
Well, I'd like to go along with Kenny's proposal, but I also would like to extend that down along Main Street, down to 287, so that we get those businesses included in that area. There are some retail in there. There's also some residential in that area. So I would take that was originally part of old Rome too. I'm just bringing that up, and I think I'd like to amend the motion to include those.
Okay, so first of all, I think what we have to do on a technical aspect is that Mr. Crenshaw's motion stands on the floor.
I will withdraw my motion.
Okay. Mr. Crenshaw has withdrawn his motion, so we do not have a motion on the floor at this time. So is anybody?
I will make the motion that we take the existing district the way it's drawn, but include the areas down alongside Main Street, down to 287, and we leave the name the same. We don't change any of that.
Mayor, we're going to need more clarification on that. I mean, because I don't know exactly what that is. So we're really going to have to be specific.
All right.
So we know how to define it, because right now, let me pull up this map.
All right.
So I think what she's trying to get at is.
But if we take the area where we got the Dollar General store, we got the post office in there. We're coming down into the area where we have the motel down below. We've got the doctor's office down by 287. That's all on the kind of the north side. On the other side, we have some residential, and then we come down into.
Councilmember Makowski, before you go on to the other side. Okay, so you're saying this line right here, you want to extend that down to the properties that front Main Street, which would include the Redbird Mart, the Dollar General. It would also include, Post Office, Dollar General. Would it include the town? I mean, that means it would include the townhomes of this potentially. That's all one property. and it would come all the way down to 287. It would take in the hotel, the vacant lot in front of that, I guess, liquor store,
Right.
the doctor's office, and then it would
Yeah.
go.
You know what, I think what I'm hearing is a bigger conversation, because what is in the proposed amendment right now is meets and bounds, and I think we need to probably work on this more and bring it back than rather try to pass anything tonight without specific meets and bounds, because that's how we got in the place we are right now. We didn't have specific meets and bounds. So I would entertain a motion to table this and come back with a meets and bound drawing. Mr. Crenshaw, yes, sir.
Yes, I believe we should table this, and I don't understand. Why don't we just take where the line comes down to the bump out on the east side, continue down that street all the way down to 287, and then on the west side, just have 287 be the boundary and encompass that entire area. And let's take a look at what that looks like. But right now, I make a motion, we table this till we get some more clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to table and a second on that motion. We'll go ahead and vote on that. Councilmember McCabe, you've abstained, so we'll go on to Mr. Crenshaw.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Priest?
Aye.
Councilmember Makowski?
Aye.
Thank you. And Councilmember Eason?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, this will be tabled to our next regular meeting. All right. We'll go on to item K, discussion and any necessary action regarding contract for solid waste refuse collection services and authorization to issue requests for proposal for the same. This is a request to issue an RFP. We haven't done any competitive bidding for many, many years in regards to our trash service, and we would like authorization from council to put an RFP out. We're coming to the end of our current agreement, and we'd like to get the competitive bids in front of you to make a decision. Councilmember Makowski?
I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion? Councilmember McCabe, is that a second? All right, got a Councilmember McCabe second. We will go for a vote. Councilmember McCabe?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Crenshaw?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Priest?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Makowski?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Eason?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, on to item L, discussion and any necessary action regarding conflict waiver for negotiations with City of Aurora regarding proposed extraterritorial jurisdiction, the ETJ exchange. We had brought to you before the proposal to discuss possible ETJ swap with the City of Aurora within Rolling V, the 122 acres. We have discovered that both cities have the same law firm representing them, and in order for us to continue, the cities would have to agree to enter into this conflict waiver and allow the attorney firm to represent both cities in the matter. And so I don't think this is an issue. I think it would save the city's money in the long run, because if we don't, then we would have to each go get separate attorneys that did not have a conflict and engage them for this particular matter. And we don't anticipate this being a contentious matter, as we're just discussing swapping something. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Donovan. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, that's how a conflict waiver works in our office. And I'm pretty sure we have to have both Rhome and Aurora sign it, or else we're conflicted out. So it's not just you guys. We have the same item's got to be before the City of Aurora to actually allow us to. And you understand, it won't be the same attorney. Carvin doesn't represent the City of Aurora. That's I think that's Betsy Elam.
Yes.
that represents them. So you guys will have your individual attorneys, just understand we're the same office. So technically we're the same representation.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember McCabe, do I see a hand?
Yes, I make a motion that we enter into this contract, the conflict waiver for negotiations.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Easton, are you seconding that?
I am.
All right, thank you. We'll go for a vote. Councilmember McCabe?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Crenshaw?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Priest?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Makowski?
Aye.
Thank you. And Councilmember Easton?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. All right, item M, discussion and any necessary action regarding negotiations with City of Newark for proposed split of City of Fort Worth extraterritorial jurisdiction, the ETJ, within Rolling V development. This is actually just an update only. We have met with the City of Newark in regards to the Fort Worth ETJ that's within Rolling V to discuss Fort Worth's potentially relinquishing that ETJ and for the City of Rome and Newark to agree on some sort of division. So where we're at with that is we're working on maps with all 4 entities, Fort Worth, Rome, Newark, and Aurora, to get the meets and bounds ETJ. And then once we have that map, we're going to overlay the CCN and the fire districts and see what makes sense given all that information. So that's where we're at. We'll have that. We'll have a follow-up meeting within 2 weeks and hope to have something we can bring back to you possibly as early as the first meeting in October. So just wanted to give you an update on that. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items under this section are recommended for approval for the consent agenda. These items are of a routine nature and require only brief deliberation by council. Council reserves the right to remove any item on the consent agenda for further deliberation. We have in the minutes of the City Council special session dated September 3rd, 2020. O, we have the minutes of the City Council regular session dated September 10th, 2020. P, we have a contract with Wise County Elections for the November 3rd, 2020 election services. Q, we have the contract with Tarrant County Emergency Services District Number 1 to provide emergency services by Run Fire Rescue. And R, we have the ordinance for quarterly budget amendments for fiscal year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember McCabe, I see a hand. Do I have a second on that? Councilmember Crenshaw, I see a second on that. We'll go down for a vote. Councilmember McCabe?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Crenshaw?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Priest?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Crenshaw? Was that an aye? I didn't hear you.
I think you meant that. I think you meant Makowski.
Oh,
I said
I'm
aye.
sorry.
It's okay.
I was looking at the right screen, but not thinking and saying the right thing. All right, Councilmember Makowski, that's an aye. All right, thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. Councilmember Easton?
Aye. And I want to vote twice like Kenny.
No, you only get to vote once. It's a long night. All right, we're done with that. Okay, our next thing is executive session. Pursuant to the following designated section of the Texas Government Code annotated Chapter 551 Texas Open Meetings Act, the council may convene into executive session to discuss the following. Section 551.071 consultation with attorney, appointment or removal of board or commission members. Section 551.072 deliberation regarding real property, we have nothing. Section 551.074 personnel, we have nothing. Section 551.087, we have nothing. The council will break off and go into a separate meeting room for the executive session, but I need to disclose that Councilmember Makowski and myself will be recusing ourselves from the executive session and will not be joining them. So the other remaining council members, will you please go on into the other executive session room along with the city attorney. It is 8:54 p.m.
Can we take a short recess in between for necessaries?
That will be fine. We can do a quick break, and you guys will meet in executive session, and the rest of us will stay and continue on in this meeting. So you get back.
Kenny,
Mayor, are we still in executive session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm back.
Mayor, are we back?
It looks like we have people coming back. I think we're still waiting.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Crenshaw's online.
Councilmember Easton is online.
I'm here. This is Elaine.
And it looks like everybody's back now at 9:58.
Is Mrs.
Okay.
Priest still running the meeting since you have recused yourself, Mayor?
That is correct.
All right. We're in the category of, is there any action as a result of executive session?
Yes.
All right, Sam,
I'd like to make a motion that we remove Ashley Majors from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
do I have a second? All right, Councilman McCabe has seconded that motion.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm working from memory here. Councilman McCabe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Crenshaw, how do you vote?
Aye.
I'm in place 3, so I vote aye. And Councilman Eason,
Aye.
because of the other councilman has recused herself, then that is unanimous vote for the removal. And that ends our action for the executive session.
Okay, we'll go on to the future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items from the council at this time?
I believe we need to look at applications for filling a spot, or are we just going to move up the first alternate?
Let's take applications. You never know who's going to apply.
But isn't the first alternate the one that's supposed to take the next vacancy?
Well,
We discussed that originally and decided against that policy when we created the alternate positions. Is that correct, Mayor?
Well, this is really just future agenda items, so it sounds like we need to talk about this at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, are there any other future agenda items at this time?
Maybe I'd like one on traffic restrictions on Main Street and BC Rome.
Okay,
Same thing as big trucks.
okay. Got it. All right, any others that we need to put on the list for tonight? Okay, if not, if you have an agenda item, send it to city administrator, city secretary, send that to them. Our last item is to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, this
Councilmember
is Ashley Majors. I would like something in writing, please, that I am removed from my seat. And
Okay.
why I'm removed from my seat, please.
I have a motion to adjourn from Josh McCabe, and then I have a second from Mr. Eason. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, all in, well, let's vote. Councilmember McCabe,
Aye.
Councilmember Crenshaw,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Priest,
Aye.
Councilmember Mikowski.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Eason.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 10:02 p.m.
Night.
All right, everybody have a good rest of your evening.
Guten Nacht.